Well, welcome back to Ask Steve Judd. My name is Sue Brayne. And today we really feel called to talk about the relationship in a chart between Pluto and Mars, but also this current and ongoing transit between Pluto and Mars, and the difficulties and the tensions that may play out in the world. So, Steve, where would you like to start with this?
I think we should play safe and start with Mars-Pluto combinations in the natal charts.
Yes.
I don't really want to go into the minor aspects, semi-squares, sesquiquadrates, quintiles, in conjunctions. I'd rather stick with the big five: conjunct, opposite, sextile, square, trine, because
I think most people understand that.
yes, they're the ones that most people will be comfortable with and commonly aware of. So let's start. Should we start with a really difficult one?
I think just Mars having a relationship with Pluto is difficult enough anyway.
It can be really good. It can be. Let's start. Should we do this? Let's start with a stinker, shall we? Mars square Pluto.
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly think it's one of the most challenging aspects in a birth chart. Mars are square and opposite. They're both real stinkers. Of course, you're never born with enough challenges that you can't also be born with the energy to overcome them and turn them into gifts.
Oh.
So even with Mars square Pluto or Mars opposite Pluto strong in the birth chart, it still releases enough energy which over a period of time and with experience can make you extremely sharp, focused, concentrated, acute, and efficient.
And a powerful person in a positive way. Hugely.
Yeah, both in all levels. Physically, it gives great stamina.
Yeah.
Mentally, it gives strong concentration and attention. Emotionally, it gives the power of one's own convictions. And psychologically, don't mess with me, Not with Pluto. No.
I always think of Professor Snape.
Yeah. I often say to clients with Mars square Pluto or Mars opposite Pluto, well, it's up to you. You can be a sledgehammer or you can be a homeopathic laser. Up to you.
Yeah.
The square, I think the opposition is more like, okay, I've got this. How do I work with it? You can't, I call the opposition, to use a French term, the fait accompli.
Yes.
You're stuck with it. So you've got to work your way with it and around it. But the square, you can, over a period of time and with experience, you can change it from challenging and difficult into something more constructive and useful. But with anything with Mars Pluto, you've got to sweat. You've really got to sweat. And I do mean that literally as well as figuratively, because Mars Pluto is all about detoxing the anger from within and pushing it into dissolving it and transforming it. And sometimes the best way with Mars Pluto is to get hot and to sweat. So saunas, down the gym, digging the garden.
Running, anything extreme, sports, anything like that to get it out. Yeah.
Mars Pluto can get a bit, I'll be polite and say challenging when it comes to sex as well.
Oh, yes. I think it can. I think it quite likes dungeons, Steve.
There's a lot of things in the dark that Mars Pluto could like, which is fine if it's among consenting adults.
Exactly.
And it's not for us to make any type of reference to it in any derogatory way. However, people with Mars Pluto connections in their chart need to be both conscious and comfortable in themselves with their use of power.
Yes.
To avoid upsetting others or betraying their own ethical or moral standards.
Yes, or becoming very dominant.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things about Pluto, especially with Mars, is the difference between being powerful which can lead to power just spinning around inside you and eventually becoming corrupt because it can't get out, as
Yes.
opposed to power filled, where the power flows through you and you are the conduit and the channel, but not the owner.
I think for me, especially with the opposition, I think we tend to, with that opposition, there will be a tendency to kind of project or draw powerful or difficult or aggressive people to you until you own your own power.
That is such a good statement. That
Mm,
is so true.
mm,
So true. Mars-Pluto opposition people will draw, they will magnetize everything that they're scared of inside themselves. They magnetize it towards them unconsciously until
yeah.
in the end they either deal with it or they don't.
Mm.
And if they don't, they stay that way forever.
Well, you can become, get trapped in the victim, persecutor, rescuer triangle. And that's not very helpful for you to grow as a person. And it's how do you use that inner power to step out of that and go, I'm not doing that anymore.
And perhaps that's the difference between the square and the opposition with these two, because with Mars-Pluto opposition, you're kind of faced with this thing, okay, I'm magnetizing everything I'm trying to not
Yes.
deal with myself. But with Mars-Pluto square, it's like, okay, my back's against the wall. Right, now I'll come out fighting. Mars
Yes.
square, Pluto square, right, I'll either thrive and fight or I'll die. But I'm not going to
Yes.
surrender.
I just wondered, actually, I don't know if you've done any research into this, if a lot of people in the forces could have that square, or people perhaps who are the what do you call them, the sort of the higher level of
Martial artists.
martial arts, or what do you call them, marine
Yeah, yeah. Special forces.
special forces.
When I wrote that, right,
Yeah.
I did a lot of research with all my clients. I got about, for every aspect, say for example, with Mars opposite Pluto, I would have isolated the 10 most recent clients I dealt with Mars opposite Pluto and emailed them and said, could you let me have a few sentences on this from your experience? And then pulled it all to get the best results for that. And that was a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
And it's very different to the Mars sextile and trine Pluto, because that's more, it is more harmonious. It does flow better. It does give a more regular stamina flow. It gives really good endurance, perseverance,
Yes.
resilience, determination,
Yes.
thoroughness. And
Yes.
if you're fortunate enough to be born with Mars sextile or trine Pluto, overall, you should find that generally you're healthier than average.
And I think probably quite successful as well, because you've got that Pluto going for it, and the
Yeah,
glamour of Pluto coupled with the assertiveness rather than aggression. I think that's the
yeah,
difference, isn't it? Mars
yeah.
become assertive when it's a trine or a sextile, but it's aggressive when it's an opposition and a square.
And I often say to people with difficult Marses, not just with Pluto, but with Saturn as well, for example, that you can choose to be aggressive and confrontational or projective and assertive.
Yeah.
And it's obvious which one works best.
Yes.
But
Yes.
the sextile and trine from Mars to Pluto gives the capacity to be projective and assertive with great stamina and great leadership ability, very good recuperation. They always get better fast.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they never get ill, but they always get better quick. And again, there's this thing about detoxing and purging and sweating. It works. And yeah,
I also wonder, Steve, if they and this again, whether it's the trine or the easier one or the more difficult, is perhaps this um, um, sort of wanting to go into the taboo areas, the occult. I think that's the Pluto, isn't it?
yeah,
That
I'd advise caution with the difficult aspects, because sometimes
yes.
there's no boundaries there, and you think, oh, this is nice, I want more.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
which point
yeah,
you get
sure.
corrupted. I do find Mars-Pluto combinations, particularly the conjunction, strong in the charts of surgeons.
Yes, because
Yeah.
they're using that as well,
Scalpels,
aren't they?
sharp,
Mars
sharp
is the knife
instruments.
and Yes.
Yeah, life and death, sharp
Yes.
instruments.
Yes.
Mars conjunct Pluto is a veritable dynamo. It's a powerhouse. It doesn't take prisoners and it deals in absolutes.
Mm.
But as long as you don't upset it, it's a steadfast, determined, reliable friend.
Do you think they're more likely to go and be surgeons on the battlefield? That's got that vibe to it, or
Uh,
bravery, or going off to, I don't know, rescue people on the top of mountains and stuff?
when I think of Mars conjunct Pluto, the first thing that always pops into my head is something like a spear or a javelin or a homeopathic laser or a dart or a bullet. Um, so I don't know that it's specifically more likely to be on a battlefield situation, but in a situation of life and death, yes,
Yes.
because Mars Pluto is always on the edge of life and death, almost regardless of what aspect. And they're comfortable about taking near death chances or near death situations and working with them.
They're risk takers, aren't they?
Mars conjunct Pluto is, and Mars opposite Pluto is also common
Yes.
in the chart of heavy power nuclear engineers, like nuclear engineers or deep dark coal miners, people who go
Yes.
into the
Going
dark.
down into the depths of the world, the underworld. It's
That doesn't mean necessarily criminality.
I'm just wondering the difference between having, if you're a male and a female, whether how it plays out. I can see how it plays out very strongly in a male chart, but in a female, there are not so many females will want to go particularly down into a mine.
No, but some of the best psychologists in the world are females,
Absolutely, exactly.
and they're very
They deep dive into the psyche.
yes, and many women I know with Mars Pluto aspects are very comfortable not only with their femininity but with their masculinity, and they can be seen as a challenge to those men who are not open to their own femininity and see women as a challenge. A
Very
strong
powerful.
woman, we've got to
Yeah,
stop her.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think yeah, she'll be a leader in some way, or could be with
yeah,
that
yeah,
combination, couldn't she?
yeah. Yeah.
It's fascinating, isn't
And
it?
that leads us on to the state of the world at the moment, because 3 or 4 months ago, there was a Mars-Pluto conjunction at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And that's the first time there's been a Mars-Pluto conjunction at 0 degrees of a sign for at least 250 years. And I know this because I checked it for a video I did. And now, in the next couple of weeks, we're heading into a, can I say this? Yeah, I can. We're heading into a bit of a shitstorm for the second week of March, when we've got a really difficult new moon
June,
and
second
Mars square
June.
Pluto at 0 degrees of Taurus Aquarius.
Yes.
And then on the day of the American election, November the 5th, Mars is at 0 degrees 10 of Leo, when Pluto's at 29:58 of Capricorn. So it's a Mars Pluto opposition on the American election day. And that is very explosive. And I don't know whether I'm talking metaphorically, allegorically, or literally. Scary. I don't think the American election is going to go according to plan.
Oh no, absolutely not. Well, judging on the history of what's happened, particularly since the storming of what happened in the
Yeah, yeah.
capital, it's playing out. There's an undercurrent, isn't there? There's something rumbling. And I think the more that we get into this June, maybe it'll start, this is
Yeah.
going to be
Well,
bump
America's
in
just
June.
finished its Pluto return,
Yes.
but the echoes are still there.
Oh gosh, yeah.
America's Pluto is 27, nearly 28 degrees of Capricorn. So it's still well within range.
And also don't forget that Pluto's going backwards now and
Of course.
going towards it again. There's something that's going to come up again, isn't there?
Mm. So we live in Mars Pluto times, and there's something very incisive, potentially subversive, acute, and not merciless or mercenary, because that is cruel or callous, but ruthless. Yes,
Yes.
yes, no, black, white.
Word ruthless. There is a ruthlessness to this connection with the square.
It's something to do with the essence of fundamentalism. Right, we're going to do it this way, and if we die doing it, that's fine, but we're going to do it this way, and we're going to make the world believe us. That's the root of fundamentalism. My way is better than anyone else's, and I'll die to protect it.
Yes, that's the tension playing out across the globe. And my God, look, looks happening in the Middle East. Looks happening.
Well, I go back to 2001. In August 2001, in a national newspaper, I said that the Saturn-Pluto opposition at that time in Gemini Sag was bang on top of America's stuff, and all hell was about to break loose. And I got into big trouble for saying that. But and there was a similar energy now, except that whereas then it was more constitutional, political, economic, as well as militaristic, whereas now it's much more incisive and acute, short, sharp incidents, rather than a big general theme of let's take down a country.
It
So
feels insidious to me. It feels like there's a lot going on behind the scenes that you and I don't know about. Nobody knows about unless you're in the room locked in. But it feels like the secret's going to come up, or
there's something or someone in the crosshairs, and that's
right.
scary.
Yes.
But we live in Mars-Pluto times. And the Mars-Pluto that's coming up over November is a retrograde. So it's going to go forward, backward, forward. And it's not going to clear Pluto until February, March of next year.
Yeah.
So, we're heading into some pretty intense times. I just don't think it's going to be manifested in some type of global war.
Okay.
I think it's more unique into certain specific countries and issues in those countries. Like I say, it's a laser rather than a sledgehammer.
Yes.
So
I just think secrets could come up. I think
yeah,
definitely a lot of hot words, nasty words,
yeah,
accusations. Really, I think there's going to be, with that Mars, a lot more people in the streets
protesting,
demonstrating a lot.
Yes. I suppose we should also at this point say that if anybody listening here has got a horoscope of their own chart that is strong at 0 degrees, or of the fixed signs, at the very start of Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, then there will be a need for them to act wisely and intelligently over the next 9 months, and to deliberately choose not to let their buttons get pushed.
Yes. So just be very, very careful about how you're feeling. And if you're feeling a building rage, to find ways of safely releasing that.
Go and dig the garden. Get down a gym.
Go on a run. Do anything.
Borrow a neighbour's dog
Pillows.
for a walk. Yeah. Use it so that it doesn't use you.
Yes. And also be very careful who you're drawing into your life, that you're not drawing people in that could be, could be overpowering or actually abusive. So
Domineering, manipulative, coercive, subversive, all the negative from Mars Pluto energy. But at the same time, we've got to stress the positive. It gives incredible resilience, stamina, durability, thoroughness, and a desire to get to the very bottom and uncover absolutely everything and bring it all into the light.
Yeah, it's all about transformation. So those people with that 0 degrees, this is an amazing opportunity to do profound inner work.
To clear your past, to clear the whole spreadsheet from the past, and to begin again. It's a wonderful opportunity, both individually and collectively.
And we've got till, when does it clear? It clears, you said?
February, March.
February, March. So we've got all of this time. I think people think often that, life's an event. It isn't, it's a process. And so you've got you look at this time until February, March to do that profound inner work. You're just going to come up the other side as a very a much clearer and cleaner in how you
Yes,
are with life.
but in the very short term, that second week of June, bit of a stinker.
Yeah.
And you're going to be away at that time.
I am. Yes, I'm hopefully. Well, I'm going to be in Portugal. So I'm really driving through France. So I'm hoping we're not going to come across any riots. Who knows? But I'm ready for it.
Not in Portugal. Not in Portugal.
You just don't. I mean, I think the wonderful thing about life now is, especially with all this energy going on, we have no idea what we're going to meet.
No, but we have a symbolic reference point.
Yes.
We can see the shape and we can see the form,
Yes.
but the details are to and again, this is a classic of astrology. The planets impel, they don't compel. It's making the arena, it's making the energy, but the way we choose to manifest or the way it manifests it is negotiable.
And that's the glory of free choice, isn't it? We can choose to go down the Swanee and get very aggressive, or we can actually say, do you know what? I really am going to engage in this and own it and take all my projections back and sit with and really connect with what my own understanding of power means to me. As you say,
Just in this last week, I've been saying to clients, look, second week of June, there's some serious stuff coming up. It's going to be hitting you. What you need to do is actually say to people, right, I've heard you, I've listened to you. I'm going to walk away now and think about it for a week. And I'll come back to you next week with my answer. That way you deflect and diffuse any potential confrontational energy.
I love that. And I think that's a brilliant place to stop, because I think that's the best piece of advice, without question, about what's coming up for us in June.
Deep though, isn't it?
Well, be Pluto.
Yeah.
Be Pluto Mars.
All right. Next time.
Yeah, take care, everyone, and go well and go gently over the next few weeks. Take
Bye
care.
now.